Hello, welcome to the course on application of spectroscopic methods in molecular structure determination. This is module number 36. This will be the last module of this particular course, and this is considered to be a problem solving session. We will look at the structure solving problems using infrared UV visible mass spectrometry, proton and carbon 13 NMR spectroscopic data. At the end of this session, we will also give some tips as to how to approach problem solving sessions in the examination and so on. Now let us start with problem number 1. The infrared spectrum and the electrospray ionization spectrum of a para-dye substituted aromatic compound are given. So only two spectroscopic data are given, no other information is given. The infrared spectrum gives a clue for one of the substituents, and the clue for the other substituents is amply evident from the mass spectrum. Deduce the structure of the compound and then make sure that the molecular weight of the deduced structure matches with the m by z value of the molecular ion peak seen in the mass spectrum. So the compound is already shown to be given to be the para-dye substituted aromatic derivative. So all you need to do is find out the two substituents from the two different spectroscopic data that is given and see whether it matches the mass spectrum in terms of the molecular weight. This is the infrared spectrum of the compound. From the infrared spectrum, very clearly seen that there are two intense peaks, 1530 and 1345. One should immediately recognize this combination of peaks to be the nitro functional group in the infrared spectrum. The nitro functional group has an asymmetric as well as a symmetric stretching of the NO bond. The asymmetric stretching comes at 1530 and the symmetric stretch comes at a lower frequency of 1345, and hence one can confirm the presence of a nitro functional group, which is one of the substituents probably in the para-dye substituted derivative from the infrared spectrum. In addition to that, one can also see peaks around 1600, 1610, which is fairly obvious because it is an aromatic system. The C double bond C stretch comes in this particular region. We don't know what is this peak due to. It may be because of the other functional group. We'll see whether we can find out whether 855 corresponds to the other functional group. For the time being, let us not worry about the assignment of all the other peaks. We should be happy that we have been able to identify the nitro functional group from the infrared spectrum very clearly. This is the electron impact ionization mass spectrum of the compound. The striking feature of this particular compound is that the molecular ion peak, we have to assume that this is the molecular ion peak, and the molecular ion peak is a doublet of two mass unit different, 215 and 217. The 215-217, which is a 1:1 intensity ratio, and the 169 and 171, which is also 1:1 ratio, confirms the presence of a bromine atom in the molecule. So the other substituent actually might be the bromine substituent. Therefore, the two functional groups, which are the NO2 and the bromine, are identified. The NO2 is identified from the infrared spectrum, and the bromine is unambiguously identified from the mass spectrum of this particular compound. So if it is a dye-substituted phenyl derivative, the molecular mass for the C6H4 unit will be 76 mass unit. The bromine will be 79 or 81 depending upon which isotope we are referring to. Both are 1:1 ratio, and the NO2 molecular weight is 46. If you add up the phenyl, bromine and NO2, which are the three functional groups that we already know, it amounts to 201. The molecular weight is actually 215, that is 14 mass unit less than the molecular ion peak. This would mean that the missing group could be a CH2 functional group that may be present in this system. So based on this information, the two possible structures that can be written for this particular molecule, both are para-dye substituted. Both of them contain the Br and the NO2 group. In addition to that, we have added a methylene group. The methylene group is added between the nitro and the phenyl in this particular case, and between the bromine and the phenyl in the other case. So we have to now identify which one of these structure actually corresponds to the mass spectral data that is given here. There is an intense peak at 136, which is the base peak, due to the loss of bromine atom. Remember, whenever bromine is there, it would be a doublet of two mass unit different with the 1:1 intensity ratio. If you subtract 79 from 215, you'll essentially get 136. So the loss of bromine gives a base peak at 136. This would imply that the bromine is actually attached to the side chain, because the benzyl bromide kind of a system readily undergo the rupture of the carbon bromine bond, rather than an aromatic bromide where the rupture of the carbon bromine bond is much more difficult. So most likely the structure is para-nitrobenzyl bromide for this particular compound. So it's a fairly simple problem that we dealt with. Let us go to problem number 2. Molecular formula is given as C9H9ClO3, and the IR and the NMR spectra of this compound is given in the problem. The infrared spectrum shows a broad peak between 3300 to 2400. This broad peak or such a broad range could only be because of the carboxylic acid functional group. In addition to that, there is a carbonyl peak also, which corresponds to a saturated carbonyl functional group, which could be a carboxylic acid functional group. The double bond equivalence is 5 for this molecule, calculated based on the molecular formula. From the infrared spectrum, we come to the conclusion there is a carboxylic acid functional group, and the CO structure of the carboxylic acid functional group essentially comes at 1714 unit centimeter. If it is a carboxylic acid functional group compound, we should look at the NMR and see whether there are any acidic hydrogen in the molecule. This is the NMR spectrum of this particular compound. Sorry for the poor quality of the spectrum. These multiplet regions will be expanded later and shown very clearly. For the time being, focus on the signal that is circled here, for example. It says offset of 1.4 ppm. In other words, the spectrometer is scanned up to 10, and beyond that, whatever is scanned was offset and plotted on the same scale here. So the offset of 1.4 ppm essentially means 10 plus 1.4 ppm, which will be 11.4 ppm for this particular hydrogen. The integration of this hydrogen is 1 hydrogen. 11.4 ppm of 1 hydrogen intensity could essentially match the COOH functional group. Therefore, the presence of a COOH functional group is essentially confirmed from the NMR spectrum by the acidic hydrogen, which appears at 11.4 ppm in this particular case. Now, this region, which is the aromatic region, between 6.9 to about 7.4 ppm or so, is expand. The expansion is shown here very clearly. This is a triplet, and the 3-line pattern is, the frequency of the 3-line pattern is very clearly shown. This would correspond to essentially 7.1 ppm or so in this particular case. There are 4 aromatic hydrogen in the molecule, and 4 protons will imply that it is a disubstituted aromatic derivative. It's certainly not a para-disubstituted derivative because lack of symmetry in the molecular pattern. If it is a para-disubstituted derivative, it would be an A prime B prime pattern, which will have a symmetrical pattern in the NMR spectrum, which is not so. So this is definitely not a para-disubstituted derivative. The 7.2 triplet, which is this signal here, essentially implies there are 2 ortho hydrogens to this particular, because this is corresponding to an ortho coupling of about 7 Hertz or so. That is what we seen from the NMR spectrum of this. 8.1 Hertz is the coupling constant that we are seeing, and that would essentially correspond to an ortho type of a coupling in this particular case. The 6.9 ppm spectrum, this is a triplet again. This triplet and this triplet is very different because this is a large coupling triplet, whereas this is a very small coupling triplet. The coupling constant, in fact, is estimated to be about 1.5 Hertz or so. This would correspond to 2 meta coupling partner corresponding to this particular hydrogen. In other words, this hydrogen has 2 meta hydrogen, and this particular proton has 2 ortho hydrogen. Such a substitution pattern is possible only with the substitution pattern of this type, where you have the HC, which has 2 ortho partner coupling partners, and the HA, which has 2 meta coupling partners, for example. The HCD and the HCB, the couplings are equivalent because they are ortho coupling. Similarly, between HAD and HAB would also be identical to make this as a triplet. So the HA is essentially this particular hydrogen here, and the HC is essentially this hydrogen. HB would be a doublet of a doublet. It will be a doublet with the ortho coupling with the HC, another doublet with the meta coupling with this. So one should see a doublet of a doublet kind of a spectrum is what is seen in this NMR spectrum. It's a fairly complex spectrum because it has 2 multiplets, one corresponding to this meta coupling and the other one corresponding to this meta coupling, the third one corresponding to the ortho coupling. In fact, it would be a doublet of a doublet of a doublet, and that is a small coupling is not very clearly seen, only the ortho coupling is seen. So one of these hydrogen corresponds to HB, the other hydrogen which is here corresponds to HD. So one other information that we can get from the chemical shift value is that if you have any signal below 7 ppm, that would only indicate that there is a strong electron donating group making the aromatic ring as an electron rich ring, which would essentially shield the hydrogen. So if you look at this particular hydrogen, this is coming below 6.8, that would indicate that this is directly attached to an oxygen kind of a heteroatom, which makes the ring as an electron rich ring. So one can come to the conclusion that one of the X group in the substituent is the OR group. Let us identify what is the R group in this particular instance. The other multiplet that is seen here in the NMR spectrum is the multiplets which are in the region between 4.4 to 5 ppm. The other region, which is between 1 and 2 ppm, is the signal that we need to assign. And those multiplets are expanded nicely here. 4.78 ppm is a quartet, 1.78 ppm is a doublet. A quartet and a doublet essentially would mean that you have a CH3CH kind of a functional group. The red hydrogen will be a quartet, which is a 1 hydrogen intensity, and the blue hydrogen will be a 3 hydrogen intensity of doublet. We have already identified an aryl oxy functional group from the earlier argument that this is a aryl oxy functional group. So we are looking at the R group in terms of the aliphatic signals that are seen in this particular instance. So Y must be either a chlorine or a carboxylic acid. Most likely it is a carboxylic acid because of the chemical shift of the hydrogen red, which is X, which is the hydrogen red is essentially coming around 4.7 ppm. Normally, if it is directly attached to an oxygen bearing carbon, it will come around 4.1 ppm or so. If there is another electron withdrawing functional group like the COOH is attached, then it is likely to come at 4.78. Moreover, if the carboxy functional group is attached to the aromatic ring, that will essentially have one of the hydrogens at least de-shielded to coming around 7.5 ppm, but there are no signals around 7.5 ppm. You can see here the signal stops around 7.25 or so here. So the carboxylic acid cannot be attached to the aromatic ring, it can only be attached to the side chain. So the chlorine is attached to the aromatic ring and the side chain is attached to the carboxylic acid group is attached to the side chain in this particular case. So the molecule is actually metachlorophenoxypropionic acid is the molecule that we are referring to. Let us see if we can assign the peaks also. HA, which should be a triplet because of B and D, essentially comes as a triplet with a metacoupling. The metacouplings are accidentally equal, that is why it looks like a triplet here. HC is also a triplet because of the orthocoupling. Accidentally the two orthocouplings are same, so it appears as a triplet in this particular case. HB is fairly complex, which is coming in this region here. HA is adjacent to the oxygen, that is why ortho to oxygen comes at the lowest delta value. So HD will have a orthocoupling and two metacoupling partners, HA and HB. Maybe the HA HD coupling is different from the HB HD coupling. So it is fairly multiplet kind of a thing is what is seen here. I would say this is a doublet because of orthocoupling, again doublet because of the metacoupling, one more doublet because of the coupling with the partner B, for example. So it will be a doublet of a doublet of a doublet. 8-line pattern is what is seen, but the metacouplings are so small that you don't see it very clearly in this particular case. Only the orthocoupling is seen as a large coupling. So essentially this satisfies the proton NMR spectrum of the compound. So one has identified the structure of the compound essentially from the fact that you have an infrared spectrum as well as the proton NMR spectrum. Only with these two spectral data it was possible to identify the compound. The infrared spectrum gave clue for the functional group that is present, and the molecular formula gave the clue for the second substituent, which might be the chlorine substituent. The proton NMR spectrum gave the skeletal information. So based on this information we have arrived at the structure, which is this particular structure which matches the given spectroscopic data. Now the assignment is also very clearly seen. HA, HB, HC, HD are assigned very nicely. The multiplets can be easily explained based on the fact you have ortho and metacouplings in this particular instance. Let us move on to the next problem. A 400 MHz NMR spectrum of hydroxycinnamic acid is shown. Actually the compound name is given as hydroxycinnamic acid. The problem is essentially to identify of the 6 possible isomers, which one of the isomer the spectrum correspond to. That is a problem. So this is a fairly simple problem. 6 isomers are ortho, meta and para of cis and trans. Each cis as well as trans will have ortho, meta, para isomers. So the 3 of the trans isomer and 3 of the cis isomer corresponding to ortho, meta, para hydroxy cinnamic acid is what we are referring to in this particular case. Now if it is a para isomer, we have to look for this 2 hydrogens which are AB kind of a system. We have to look for the NMR spectrum and see whether we can measure the J value for the AB. If the AB is seen very clearly, if the J value is more than 14 Hz, then you can assume that it is a trans isomer. And one can also see from the NMR spectrum whether there is a symmetrical A prime BB pattern present there. If it is present, then it is definitely the para isomer. If it is absent, then we can rule out the para isomer very clearly. So the problem amounts to identifying the stereochemistry to decide between cis and trans isomer, and identifying the aromatic pattern to decide on whether it is ortho meta para of a particular isomer. So this is the proton NMR spectrum. The two peaks doublet are marked A and B correspond to the vinylic protons. This is the only AB quartet that you can see in the spectrum. So this would correspond to A, which is close to the benzylic position, that is a beta hydrogen, and this is corresponding to the alpha hydrogen. This is a 400 megahertz NMR spectrum. The spectroscopy data is given as 400 megahertz. So 1 ppm essentially corresponds to 400 hertz in terms of the width of this particular 1 ppm would correspond to 400 hertz. So you need to calculate the width of these two lines or the width of the two lines as indicated by the red double-headed arrow. You can either measure the coupling constant here or measure the coupling constant here. I have done so. It corresponds to about 15.6 hertz. In other words, if this length is 400, what is this length corresponding to? That's all you need to find out. And it turns out to be 15.5 hertz. And this is definitely, it belongs to the trans isomer. So we'll move to the rest of the aromatic hydrogens here. The rest of the aromatic hydrogen, one can very clearly see a signal number 1, for example, is a triplet at 7.5 hertz to 8 hertz approximately, which would correspond to two orthocoupled products. In other words, this proton, aromatic proton, has two orthocoupled partners, so it appears as a triplet, for example. And signal number 2 and 4 are essentially having an orthocoupling and a very small coupling, which might be metacoupling. You can barely see the coupling. The coupling is ortho here, and within the line here there is a small coupling which is a metacoupling probably. Signal number 3 is essentially a singlet. It may be a small doublet may be present here because of a very small metacoupling kind of a system. So based on this information, we can arrive at the fact that this has to be a orthohydroxy or a metahydroxy kind of a system, definitely not a parahydroxy kind of a system. One can rule out this structure also essentially because this hydrogen, which has two adjacent orthohydrogen, would be a triplet, and this hydrogen, which also has two adjacent orthohydrogens, would be a triplet. But you see only one triplet in the spectrum. So these two hydrogens, which would have been two triplets in the spectrum, this spectrum doesn't have two triplets, so this can be easily ruled out as a structure. So the structure has to be the metahydroxy cinnamic acid. Now we can assign, for example, the H1, H2, H3, H4 very easily. Sorry, this is H2 and this is H3. I have mislabeled it. This is supposed to be H2. H1, H2, H3, H4 is the signals that we see for the corresponding. So one can interpret H1 to be a triplet because of coupling to H3 and H2, H4 and H2. And this would be essentially a singlet, which is H3, for example. This would be an orthocoupling partner and a metacoupling partner. So most likely it is the H2 here, which is this H2 here. H3 will be again a two metacoupling partner and no orthocoupling partner is there. So essentially H3 will be essentially a singlet in this kind of a system. Let us move on to the next problem. This is problem number 4. This is molecular formula is given and the infrared UV visible spectrum, mass spectrum and NMR data is also given. This is the infrared spectrum of this compound. There are no peaks that are corresponding to the OH, NH, SH region or the carbonyl region. So the infrared spectrum is not very informative in this particular case. However, we can conclude that there may be an unsaturation in the system which corresponds to 1600 peak at C double bond C stretching frequency is there. All the other peaks are coming in the fingerprint region. One can, for example, assume that the peak around 1350, which is this particular peak, and the peak around 1180, which is this particular peak, may be because of a sulfur oxygen stretching frequency, because sulfur is present in the compound. We are assuming this. If it is a SO2 kind of a group, this could be an asymmetric stretch frequency of the SO, and this could be a symmetric stretch frequency of the SO. But that is a very tentative assignment, but we are not sure about this particular assignment. We need another confirmation to make sure that this assignment is correct. Proton NMR spectrum is very nice. You have a AB quartet, A prime, B prime kind of a pattern, which immediately tells you that in the aromatic region you have a paradise substituted derivative kind of a thing. And then 4.1, a quartet of 2 hydrogen intensity, 7 Hertz coupling, and a triplet of 1.3 ppm of 7 Hertz coupling. These are the coupling partners. So this would essentially amount to OCH2 CH3. OCH2, because this is about 4.1, the large chemical shift value tells you that it has to be attached to an oxygen and nothing else that would come in the 4 region of the NMR spectrum. The 2.45 is a singlet This would mean that it is attached to an aromatic functional group. It could have been an acetyl type of functional group, but there are no carbonyl peaks in the infrared spectrum, so this can be easily ruled out. In the absence of the infrared spectrum, you cannot rule this out, but in the presence of infrared spectrum, which shows clearly there is no carbonyl functional group, this can be ruled out very easily. So this is a aryl CH3 kind of a group. So if you take the aryl CH3, which is a para-substituted aryl CH3, and OCH2CH3 and subtract it from the molecular formula, the balance will be SO2. So we have identified the fragments that it is a para-toluyl Y substituted derivative, and it is a ethoxy functional group is there and SO2 functional group is there. You need to put them together. You arrive at the structure that it is a para-toluyl benzene sulfonic acid ethyl ester. In other words, ethyl para-toluene benzene sulfonate is the structure of the compound. Now we have to ascertain whether the mass spectra and the carbon-13 data also fit this particular structure. This is the mass spectrum of the compound. The molecular ion peak is very clearly seen at 200. Loss of 28 mass unit corresponds to 172 and loss of 45 mass unit corresponds to 155, and from here loss of 64 mass unit corresponds to 91. So let us see if this particular peaks, these peaks can be identified by this fragmentation pattern. This is para-methyl benzene sulfonic acid ethyl ester. This is a carbonium ion that is formed, carbocation that is formed in the mass spectral condition. A beta hydride shift would essentially release the ethylene unit, which is a 28 mass unit loss. From the molecular ion peak, if you subtract 28, we get 172. There is a peak at 172. And a simple fragmentation corresponding to the sulfur oxygen bond here with the loss of ethoxy functional group, which is a loss of 45, would essentially correspond to molecular ion losing a ethoxy radical to give 155 peak, which is this particular peak. Loss of sulfur dioxide from this molecule will essentially give you the para-toluyl cation, which is a 91 peak. So all the mass spectral data can be satisfactorily explained by a simple fragmentation pattern of this kind for this particular molecule. The carbon-13 spectrum can also be easily assigned. The two low intense peak would be the ipso peak. One correspond to the one that is attached to the sulfonyl group will have the higher delta value. The second one attached to the methyl group will have a lower delta value. And the CH carbons, which are the 3 and 4, can be assigned like this. Adjacent to the sulfonyl would be 4 and adjacent to the 3 would be essentially this particular assignment will be correct. Now the CH2 which is attached to the oxygen will come around 65 ppm or so. In this particular case it comes around 67-68 ppm or so. The CH3 which is aromatic CH3 comes around 20 ppm and the terminal CH3 would come around 10 to 12 ppm, which is this particular peak that is seen here. And off resonance spectrum also very clearly tells us that this is a CH2, this is a CH3 and this is a CH3 peak. So essentially carbon-13 spectrum as well as the proton NMR spectrum, mass spectrum are easily fitted into this particular structure. The only thing that is remaining is the UV visible spectrum. The UV visible spectrum confirms that it is an aromatic compound because of the large absorption that is happening between 200 to 350 nanometer. The absorption maximum is so high that you don't see it very clearly. It goes beyond the scale that is shown here. There is a band at 270. This could be the longest wavelength absorption band of the aromatic pi-pi star transition, or it could also possibly the n-pi star transition because of the SO group. We are not very sure about it. Most likely this is the longest wavelength absorbing aromatic pi-pi star transition. One can easily calculate the epsilon value and find out whether it is a forbidden transition or an allowed transition. This is something exercise we have already done. The mass is given. The molecular weight is also known from the mass spec. The cell dimension is given here. And the absorption corresponds to about 0.7 or 0.6, 0.875 or so in this particular case. So using Beer-Lambert's law, one can calculate the epsilon value, which you can do it yourself. Now let us see if we can give you some tips for the problem solving session. First of all, always use logic to solve the structures of structure elucidation problem. Do not do any kind of a guesswork, because guesswork can actually lead you in the wrong direction and end up in a mess of things which is not easy to solve afterwards. Check whether the molecular formula is given. If it is given, use it to find the degree of unsaturation. Depending on the presence or absence of heteroatom, you can infer the presence or absence of certain functional group. For example, if nitrogen is present, you can come to the conclusion that it might be an NH2 group or NHR group or a tertiary amine or a cyanofunctional group. If both nitrogen and oxygen are present, if there are two oxygens present in the nitrogenous compound, it could as well be NO2. which you can confirm from the infrared spectrum. If sulfur and oxygen are present like we saw in the earlier example, it could be SO, SO2 or SO3 depending upon how many sulfurs and how many oxygen atoms are present in the system. In the infrared spectrum, extract the functional group information by identifying characteristic frequencies of various functional group. This means that you need to familiarize yourself with the most functional group frequency. It comes only with practice. However, simple functional groups like NH, OH, CN, carbonyl, NO2 and C double bond C are unmistakable functional group which can be unambiguously identified from the NMR spectrum, from the infrared spectrum. Corresponding stretching frequency will be intense peaks, so one can easily identify them. Please do not worry about interpreting every little peak in the infrared spectrum. It would be a waste of time and sometimes it could be also misleading. So try to interpret only the most obvious peaks in the infrared spectrum and see whether you can support it from other spectroscopic data also. In the mass spec, look for the presence or absence of chlorine, because the presence of chlorine or presence of bromine can be inferred by the appearance of M and M plus 2 peak with appropriate intensities. If it is a chlorinated compound, M and M plus 2 will be 3:1 ratio. If it is a bromine compound, it will be 1:1 ratio. From the intensity ratios and the number of multiplets that you see in the M and M plus 2, M plus 4 region, you can even tell how many bromines and chlorines are present in the system. Try to ascertain if the molecular ion is seen in the spectrum also. Normally, we can assume that the highest M by Z value peak is the molecular ion peak. Sometimes this could be a wrong assumption also. If the molecule fragments very rapidly, if the molecular ion is not seen, this could be leading to some kind of a misinterpretation. If the molecular ion peak is seen, see whether it is an even number or odd number. If it is, pay attention to the odd or even mass fragments also. Even mass fragments do not arise from simple fragmentation process if the molecular weight is a even molecular weight. This is extremely important. If it is an odd molecular weight, you come to the conclusion there is an odd number of nitrogen or a single nitrogen present in the system. And look for familiar fragmentations in the from the molecular ion. For example, a loss of 15 would correspond to methyl, a loss of 28 would correspond to either a loss of ethylene or a CO, loss of 29 would correspond to an ethyl group loss of 31 would be a methoxy, and so on. So these are losses which are easy to identify from the molecular ion peak for simple compounds. Look for familiar fragments also. Having M by Z value 77 would correspond to phenyl, 91 would correspond to benzyl, 43 would correspond to acetyl, 105 would correspond to phenosyl. So this kind of fragments can also be easily identified if you recognize these fragments very readily from the molecular weights. Once the structure of the molecule is more or less ascertained, then you look for the more complex fragmentation patterns like Retro, Diels-Alder and McLafferty rearrangement and so on. Fragments arising from these processes will be even mass provided the molecular weight is also even in these compounds. So don't straight away look for McLafferty rearrangement in the mass spectrum unless you are sure that it is a carbonyl compound or a compound which has a structural unit which is capable of undergoing McLafferty rearrangement and so on. That is a caution one need to do. Again, do not interpret the entire mass spectrum. Peaks which have less intensity, less than 10%, can be ignored in the mass spectrum. Proton NMR spectrum probably gives the most valuable information about the structure of the compound. So from a quick glance of the spectrum, ascertain the nature of the compound to be either aromatic, unsaturated or saturated aliphatic compound, because they have very characteristic region. Between 7 to 8 ppm is aromatic, between 5 to 7 ppm is unsaturated compound, aliphatic compound. Saturated compounds typically come between 1 ppm and 5 ppm or so, depending on how many substituents are present in the system. You must use all the three parameters. One can get the parameter of delta, J as well as integration value. Don't try to ignore any of these parameters. Use all of them in conjunction to in problem solving session. Check if the number of protons in the molecular formula matches with the total integration, because each integration would correspond to a certain number of hydrogen. If you add up all the integration, that should match the molecular formula of the particular compound, the number of hydrogen present in the molecular formula. Look for exchangeable hydrogen. They are easy to identify because they are very broad, and usually the D2O exchange information is often given in the spectral data. If the compound is aromatic, see if you can recognize the substitution pattern. Para substitution is the easiest to recognize because it is a symmetrical AA prime BB prime pattern. We have also seen some examples of the meta substitution pattern. If you can recall this pattern during the problem solving session, it will be nice to figure out the number of substituents. Look for AV or AA prime BB pattern in the aliphatic region also. This might be because of a diastereotopic type of hydrogen. From the splitting pattern, try to identify the molecular fragment. For example, ethyl group, isopropyl groups are easy to identify from the splitting pattern. Note that sometimes the septet may look like a quintet. Pay attention to very weak signals in the multiplet so that the end lines are not missed in the NMR spectrum. Also look for signals which would correspond to CHO group, which will come around 9 to 10 or 9 to 11 ppm. CH3CO peak, for example, which will come around 2 to 2.5 ppm or so. COO C2H5 ppm, this would come around 4.1 ppm or so. These are very characteristic chemical shift and multiplicity pattern, correspond to certain functional group which should not be missed in the NMR spectrum. Carbon-13 spectrum, one can look for low intensity peaks corresponding to carbonyl, cyano and acetylenic carbon, because these only carbon-13 gives signature for this kind of functional group besides the infrared spectrum. One can always use the carbon-13 data as well as the infrared data to confirm the presence or absence of this kind of functional groups. Try to count the number of quaternary carbons and the number of carbons that has proton attached to it based on the intensity. Usually the quaternary carbons are low intense in nature and the carbons attached to hydrogens are high intensity in nature. And if off resonance spectrum is available, make use of the information of the off resonance spectrum. In the off resonance spectrum, if there is a triplet in the olefinic region, you can be very sure that it is because of a terminal olefin with the C double bond CH2 kind of a functional group being present there. Mostly symmetry reduces the number of signals in the carbon-13 spectrum. One can tell for sure from the symmetry how many signals are to be expected for a given compound. The example is anthracene has 4 signals, whereas phenanthrene has 7 signals, because phenanthrene is less symmetric than the anthracene molecule, for example. So check for the number of signals that is expected based on the structure and the number of signals that is actually seen in the NMR spectrum. After the structure is deduced, try to assign all the carbon atoms to various signals and see if they match well in number as well as the delta value. In other words, the number of signal expected and the actual signal seen should match each other. The number of carbons that is seen in the structure that is arrived at should have the sufficient number of signals in the carbon-13 spectrum. Watch out for overlapping signals. Sometimes this is indicated in the spectrum. Often it is difficult to figure this out in the aromatic region. So be careful about that. After all the fragments are identified, one need to connect the puzzle in a logical manner to arrive at the final list of candidates containing one or more structures. In other words, you don't rule out any structure without any logical reason. Just don't assume that it's a wrong structure. Try to analyze the structure, get back to the infrared mass spec and the NMR data and see if the structure fits all the data or not just one or two spectroscopic data. Once the range of spectroscopic data is given, the final structure should match all the spectroscopic data. It should not match only mass spec and not NMR, only IR and not NMR. That kind of argument is not a valid argument. It is very important because oftentimes the students do not go back and check the spectroscopic data for the structure that they arrive at. Often they can come to some wrong conclusion and make mistakes in the structural assignment if you don't go back and check it properly. Make sure the molecular formula matches with the given molecular formula. The structure that you arrive at has the molecular formula. It should match with the given molecular formula if the molecular formula information is given. Please note that familiarity with infrared spectral frequency, NMR delta J value comes only with practice. So the more problems you try to solve, the more familiar you will become in solving the structure elucidation problems carefully. I hope these tips are very useful to you. Good luck in your examination and thank you very much for your kind attention.